Okay, so yes, again, I know this is a few months late. I've given my excuse already. We don't have to dwell on that, but I'm catching up to try to get everything up in order. So, also, again, I'm going to be giving my overall thoughts on the show to begin with. Then we're going to have a really big spoiler section. There'll be breakpoints in between if you want to avoid the spoilers. Okay? Okay. So, I am going to be giving Marvel's Echo, Marvel's Spotlight Echo, a C. Overall, this is a real mixed bag. I think there's some really good action sequences in this. I think the performances are really well done. The supporting cast is incredibly stellar. There's some good nuance in there, and I do think overall this is pretty well done. Unfortunately, there are some very glaring mistakes that just bog everything down. There's pacing issues. Half of the first episode is recap. That's not helpful. Also, there's a lot of storyline redundancies. There's a lot of, boy, this could be wrapped up in like 2 minutes if they just talk instead of, I can't tell you anything. That makes me worry more. And that also is coupled with some odd technical wonkiness that happens. Scenes that are supposed to be subtitled aren't. And no, it's not that they didn't have the subtitles on. They should have been subtitled right away, as later on they do fix the subtitles, but even early on, subtitles are either there or they're not, and in some cases, they're there on the screen so quickly you don't even notice what they are. It's just a little blink. So yeah, it's just unfortunately really bogs down a lot of the experience. And with the pacing issues, I do wonder if this may have been better off as a 3-part series, or maybe even just a standalone movie. I think it would have worked a lot better because that would have eliminated a lot of the redundancy. But yeah, like I said, it's not terrible. If you are a big fan, if you did like Echo from Hawkeye, if you're looking for build-up to the Daredevil miniseries that's coming up, by all means, it's a good watch. So yeah, that's why it gets a C.
Get sucked into the action and prepare for maximum impact with Disney XD. To the players, the skaters, the gamers, the tempting faders, you know who you are. On Disney XD. On TV, online, everywhere.
X-Men. Mutant power within. Logan's claws extend, just like in the movie, to do battle with Sabretooth's swiping attack. The evil mutants must be stopped. Magneto's magnetic power traps Cyclops.
Gotcha!
Storm's lightning lights up the sky. Cyclops fires his optic blast. Mutant power within. Wolverine's missile-firing X-Cycle.
Yeah!
Claw-slashing Wolverine cuts evil down to size. X-Men. X-Men figures and X-Cycle, each sold separately. Batteries not included.
Okay, again, this is the spoiler section. Skip to this point if you wish to avoid it, okay? Okay, so yeah, basically the plot line with Echo is, if you can't recall from Hawkeye, and trust me, the first episode basically he explains what happened. She apparently killed the Kingpin and is now on the run. She's run back to her family's home in Oklahoma. She is part Mexican-American, part indigenous American, in this case, Choctaw. I'm going to try not to butcher any of the pronunciations or anything, so I'll just try to explain it as best I can. But yeah, she's going home, and we get a brief flashback to her youth very early on, and how she lost her leg, and the death of her mother, which coincides with this. They were in a car accident. Her mother was also hearing impaired and spoke only in sign language. And her mother, Taloa, and her grandmother, Chula, basically, because she knew that, again, it says, when we get there I'll explain more, but she did not approve of Maya's father, and they moved to New York. The Lopez's moved to New York. Chula stays back, and they're kind of just excommunicated from the family. She excommunicates the father, and then later on, it's one of those kind of by extension, Maya gets kicked out too, and that's led to a lot of bitterness, but she still goes there. She finds her grandparents' former place abandoned, but they still own it. They just moved out. And she crashes there overnight. She patches up a wound. She goes to visit her uncle Henry, who runs the local skater rink. Henry is the brother of her father, just to clarify bits here. There's also a cousin Bonnie, who I think is on the mother's side, but I'm not entirely sure. They don't clarify that part. And another cousin, Biscuits, discovers her at the farm the next morning, and she tells him to keep on the down low. She's there just passing through town. And as this is happening, it's slowly revealed that, well, she shot Wilson Fisk. She did not actually kill him. She just shot him in the eye. And there is a bounty on Maya's head to turn her over to the Kingpin. And one of the employees at Henry's skating rink recognizes her and calls it in. And this begins setting things up. Also, Maya then finds out basically the Fisk Industries is running a shipping, possibly some type of weapons smuggling operation out of this town in Oklahoma. And that Henry still kind of works for them. And she's not too happy about it, but, he explains, like, what are we going to do? You don't just walk away from this guy. You face consequences. And at one point, Maya rigs one of these cartons with explosives, so it goes off and takes out one of the receiving senders. But that just antagonizes more and actually winds up bringing the Kingpin's forces and Fisk himself to Oklahoma as he's pieced together what's going on. As this is happening, there's kind of a subplot where Maya is finding out more about her lineage. It goes back to the Choctaw creation story and where they come from, and a god named Chafa, mainly just Chafa. I'm not going to try to say the whole thing, but yeah, and that she kind of has this tie back to Chafa's. They receive visions throughout everything. We get visions of various women who are in this lineage and how they overpower things. There's one who's just a strong warrior who participates in sports. There's another one who, during the early times of the reservation, there's a reservation police force called the Light Horsemen, and she winds up joining them against her father's wishes, but then she proves herself in catching some bandits. And that's where it kind of starts to come from, as she sort of taps into these abilities to channel these people when need be. She gets a new prosthetic leg after one of her prosthesis is damaged. At one point she gets a temporary one, and then her grandfather, Scully, makes her a new one with a emblem on it. And it's about Maya trying to accept herself, get herself to accept her family back again. Again, this is where the redundancy comes in, because there's a lot of, Maya, was particularly close to her cousin Bonnie, but she doesn't contact Bonnie, and then Bonnie finds out she's there, and she's like, why didn't you call me? And there's a lot of, I'll explain, and then Maya leaves to not explain. Maya and her grandmother don't want to talk to each other. It's like, the grandmother is like, well, she doesn't want to talk to me. Maya's like, well, she doesn't want to talk to me. And eventually they wind up having a simultaneous vision, and that does necessitate a meeting that Henry facilitates. And as this is shortly, I'll get to that. But where this is where they have their big blow up, basically. And the mother explains. The grandmother Chula says, when Tuloa was killed, I banished your father, but I didn't think that, I forgot that I was by extension banishing you, and I shouldn't have, and that was stupid and selfish, and I was angry and hurt. But that vision you described, you saw, is what I saw when I was giving birth to your mother, and she was believed to be a healer. And this triggers another memory in Maya of Tuloa healing an injured woodpecker that she'd struck with a slingshot Maya struck with a slingshot. So this is kind of bringing that back, but it's another blow up. Maya tries to leave, and it's this point that Wilson Fisk arrives at, in Oklahoma to confront her. He gives her a special contact lens that allows him to, basically, it's sort of like Google Lens, but for sign language, where he can speak and sign at the same time, and virtual signing happens so she can translate. She doesn't have to lip read. We get a little more into her and Wilson Fisk's relationship, that he was a surrogate uncle for her, and at one point when she was very young, she tried to buy ice cream, but the guy, not realizing she was deaf, can't say, like, okay, like, what do you want? What do you want? Okay, you're pointing, but what exactly do you want? Do you, use words, and, she can't obviously do that. And Fisk responds by beating him up, and then she kind of joins in. And, Fisk kind of explains, after her father is killed, he explains, like, oh, I, lost my father too. I understand the anger. I understand the way I'm take this out. You come learn with me. I will finish your training, and you can be my enforcer. And they grow closer. They have these Sunday dinners. And at one point he says, look, your training's complete. We'll still have these dinners, but, we don't need, we can communicate now. We don't even need an interpreter anymore. And he has the interpreter killed because we can't have that type of stuff getting out. Even though he's never actually learned the sign language. I think she can handle lip reading enough or something to that effect. But yeah, we see how close they actually did get and how it all falls apart. But as this is happening in the present, Fisk is like, look, you want to be in charge of everything. I will step aside. You can, you come back to New York City, and you will run everything, and I'll just kind of be in the background. Obviously she knows he's full of it. And, she confronts him again, and he reveals, as she tries to kill him, again, looking like she's going to kill him, and he reveals, like, look, if you're going to do it, let's just do this right. I'm going to show you what I did. And, he pulls out the hammer that he had used to kill his father, if you ever saw the Daredevil series. He explains that, yes, it's like, wait, you said your father died. You never said you killed him. And it's like, yes, but he beat my mother, and I had to hear it all night until I got big and strong enough to not, to finally intervene. And it kind of puts her off to the point that she tries to flee again, but then she realizes they're going to attack the annual Choctaw powwow, and that causes her to double back, and this leads to a big confrontation, kind of in the background. And at another point, Maya receives a vision of her mother, who explains again, like, you can't carry this anger with you. This wasn't your fault, You have to let the pain go and move on. We all echo in you. And so this happens. It allows all the women in Maya's family to basically tap into the family lineage and fight back and take down Fisk. And at this point, Maya performs the healing ritual on him, and tries to get him to let go of the pain of, having to intervene with his father and everything, of the abuse. And it seems like he did, but he's still overcome, and he just kind of flees. He leaves as the police arrive. And then we get the end credits stinger, which is, as he's flying back to New York City, he sees a little TV news report about the mayor race and how it's kind of wide open because people don't trust politicians anymore, and so an outsider, someone who gives the illusion that they can kick butt and a bare-knuckle brawler, could easily just kind of come in and take this thing. And this is a premise from the comics. Fisk does become mayor of New York City very briefly. I think it just ended in 2021, I want to say. Like, it went on for a few years, I know that. It was 2020 or 2020. Yeah, I think it went from like 2018 to 2021. It was a very sizable story that happened. And he began to crack down on vigilantes, including Daredevil, obviously the Punisher, Spider-Man to an extent. Other guys though had like Avengers protection, so you couldn't quite go after them. But yeah, there was a very big street level storyline that happened. And then as that is also happening, Maya's finally reconnected with her family, finally sits down to a family meal. Like I said, overall, the story is good. Like, there's some really great performances. Obviously, Gary Graham is in it. All like the supporting cast is strong. Obviously, Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin is good. So all that's really well done, and it really does a good job of telling the story without being too, stereotypical. What you see with a lot of indigenous characters, unfortunately. They did work with the Choctaw tribe to at least try to make it as accurate as possible, so I can at least appreciate that aspect of it. But again, like I said, I think this would have worked better as just one standalone movie. Like, the episodes outside of the first one are pretty short. They're all in the 40-minute range. 40 minutes. The last episode is 37 minutes. Like, the first episode is almost an hour, and then the rest, it's like... So, again, you could have trimmed... You take out the big recap or condense it down to 10 minutes. This is easily, a 2-hour, maybe 2-hour and 10-minute movie. And I think that would have worked a lot better. You could have just put it on Disney Plus that way. I don't see why you had to turn this into a miniseries, really. And again, there's that storytelling redundancy. In particular, like the big subplot is supposed to be between... I guess it's a semi-three-way story where it's Maya and her grandmother, and also Maya and her cousin Bonnie. Bonnie gets a little more involved in that aspect. But again, it's the... I reached out, Bonnie in particular is the one, I reached out to you and you just ignored me, and it's because I knew I wasn't going to be welcome here because, my grandmother doesn't want me here. Exactly. And, it was the grandmother who had to come out and say, yeah, I screwed up. But yeah, again, that's one of those things where it's like, it's all fixed if they just sit and talk, but then still there's the... I'll explain later, and then, no, I can't explain to her, and I just walk on and drive on to another city or whatever. And that's where it just falls apart. It's like, ugh. That's a main problem I have. It's the same problem series like Hellstrom, if you remember that, on Hulu had. It's the same problem the Iron Fist series had, where it's like, we have to push this out as much as we can, so that eliminates character growth. And it's just kind of how it sort of falls apart in that aspect, if you get what I'm saying. So yeah, like I said, while there were a lot of really good sequences in this, there's still a lot of, again, overwrought storytelling and bad pacing, and I mentioned the thing with the subtitles, that just didn't work. So yeah, that's again why I kind of have to call this a very average series, where again, I think the only thing is, like I said, the only thing I would say is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to phrase this right. I just realized there was one part I forgot, which is, again, the family lineage aspect. I wonder if that was meant to cover for the fact that in the comics, Maya Lopez does become the host for the Phoenix Force. I think she still technically is at this point. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, like, we can't do that because we got to save that for X-Men. But this we can do, so like I said, you get the point where there are parts that really work. Like, there's some good action sequences in here, but then there's, again, like, the cliches just kind of bog the story down. And like I said, the wonkiness with the subtitles happened as well, where again, they're either not there, or they're there so quickly, it's like, okay, it's like... And then that did rectify itself about halfway through the third episode. They finally seemed to get that working again. But yeah, it did get pretty aggravating. So yeah, that is why I gave Echo a C.
Heads up, it's Water Wars. The new X-Men Water Wars collection with the coolest water weapons you've ever seen. Sentinel attacks X-Men. Return the wave jumper to the ship. Initiate the hydro disc launcher.
Fire! Fire!
Ah!
Let's finish him, X-Men! Throw mode on!
Release the deep sea dive chamber.
Blast him!
Detonate slam dunk catapult.
Do the wave signal. Cool.
The amazing new X-Men Water Wars. Playset and figures sold separately.
There's only one Saturday morning a week. Do it right.
Oh, yeah!
And the place to catch Phineas and Ferb Saturday mornings is Disney XD.
Yeah.
I got the urge to pop and lock. Yeah.
Only one place where you can watch new episodes of Monster Buster Club. Only one place to see all new episodes of Kid vs. Cat. And Jimmy Two Shoes. You've never seen Saturday like this.
Way to go, Beezy!
Start Saturday morning at 8/7 Central. Only on Disney XD.
Yeah.
Okay, so in all likelihood, the next video is going to be the predictions video for WrestleMania 40. Then we'll get the WrestleMania recap and review. Then after that will be the random trade review on Justice League Task Force, Savage Legacy. Then it's going to be the Doctor Who specials recap and review. And then we're probably going to have some Madden videos up after that, because I guess I got a lot's happened with the NFL recently, and I probably should have had something up at that point, but I've been busy. Okay, that should set things up for the next bit, hopefully. See you all next time. Hey guys, remember you can request a movie or a television series for me to review at my Patreon at patreon.com/CPTime for Cat Productions. Also, remember to like the video, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you can be alerted to further videos.